And the funny thing is I was in the other boat. All I hear is Scott go, "Oh!" So I turned just in time to see what looks like Ryan holding the camera going, "Sploosh." I'm like,
he's like,
why would you do that?
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Savage Arms. Better comes standard. Nosler Ammunition. World's finest bullets, ammunition, and brass. Boss Shot Shells. Superior made and American made. Carlson's Choke Tube's the only choke tube we've ever purchased. Onyx Hunt. Know where you stand.
Hello and welcome to episode 113 of the Greenway Outdoors podcast. My name is Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Ryan.
And we're recording this on Thursday, August 31st.
3-1.
Yep.
Yep.
Good job, buddy.
Well, there's a method to me saying that. Although I normally don't know the date anymore. I don't even know the day anymore.
No, it's
everything just blends together. Me and Ryan haven't had a day off since June, so everything just kind of blends together. But on September 2nd, which probably is in the past for a lot of you listening right now, we premiered on the History Channel on 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, back-to-back episodes, half hour each, on the History Channel on Saturdays. So the first episode was on the 2nd of September, and then there's actually 5 Saturdays in September in 2023. So there'll be 5 weeks in a row with 2 episodes back-to-back. If you happen to miss them, you should set your DVR going forward. But if you did happen to miss them, you can check them out on History Streaming, which you can find at historychannel.com.
For those of you counting, that's 10 new episodes in 1 month. Which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's a lot of... It may not sound like a lot to some because they're like, well, that's all you gave us is 10 episodes this season, but with our small team, 4 guys...
Jam-packed episodes.
Yeah.
A lot has happened.
That is the thing, and we just watched... Well, I won't say it, but we watched a few competitor shows because we were just doing our final review of our turkey episode that's going to air on History Channel in week 2. So September 9th, I believe that would make it. And then we watched a couple turkey episodes from competitors just to kind of see like the feel. And, you think you're doing a good job, but you just take a look. And historically, Ryan and I especially on the creative side have gone out of our way not to watch competitor shows.
Yeah.
Because we don't want it to...
taint our process.
Right. Like you start... seeing and then you start replicating, and I never really wanted to do that. You want to take like the good qualities, but you don't want to change your tone or your message, and I also don't want my words in the show to be regurgitated from somebody else.
Yeah.
God bless you, AJ.
Yeah.
Was it AJ?
It was AJ.
Yeah. We always wanted to be super careful about being your stereotypical hunting and fishing show, so we're highly educational. While also making it very entertaining because Jeff is so funny.
It's not only just, hey, look, a kill shot. Look, I'm holding up antlers. Hey, look, a kill shot. No, look at my turkey. Hey, look, I brought in a fish. Look at this fish.
No antlers on turkeys.
Here's a brand. Credits.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
I always say they look like the entire scene of any hunting show is exactly that. It's like GoPro show. They shoot some big buck that you've never seen in your entire life, and then they stand over it and talk about their sponsors for a half hour.
4 minutes.
It's just not
fun.
Not good.
I can't watch those. I get motion sick with the quick, because the GoPros just, they're swinging them around and it's fast moving.
Yeah. Yeah,
a lot of garbage out there.
AJ just like, let's say it how it is. To talk about a couple of the episodes that aired on the 2nd. The first one was Bison-Bison-Bison, and I don't have like a nervous tick or anything.
Bison-Bison-Bison.
The name of the episode is that because that is the scientific name for it, and I think that was out of
binomial.
I think that was the I think it was a bit out of spite because everyone hates that they're called buffalo, because buffalo are in Africa. It's a different thing, so they're like their name is Bison-Bison-Bison. But that is the scientific name for plains bison. And what was cool about that episode, to dig a little bit deeper in it from what you actually saw in the show itself, was, we went out and the goal was to learn as much about what was actually going on with the bison in the past and the present to identify the real problem that was happening so that we could make a positive impact in bison going forward. And I've read books, I've heard stories, and I've watched movies, and basically the story that you get from everybody is you're like, why do you think the bison went extinct? And everyone will tell you white people killed them in mass numbers, whacked them and stacked them in order to put the Native Americans on welfare, basically, as they knew that
negatively affect them. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew. So the Native Americans, the goal was if we could get rid of their food source or commissary, Pimfigan, then if we could get rid of their food source, then they would not have anywhere to go, anything to do, so they would have to get put on welfare, and then we could control them. And you see that in present day in certain situations as well. Mm-hmm. But that's what we were seeing, and that did happen. So I don't want to discredit that happened. And Native Americans hunted them in mass numbers too. And there's like this, there's this idea that there was never a time where Native Americans didn't utilize every single scrap of bison possible. But that's actually not true. Now, I don't know exactly the years and stuff when that wasn't true. Native Americans and the ones that we've interacted with do use every piece of it. And I do believe that Native Americans always wanted to use every piece of it. But a lot of the ways that they would kill these bison is they would run them off of cliffs. Because if they can get the bison moving in one direction, they're all going to keep going. They'll go right off a cliff. So they're finding mass graves of bison from Native Americans that are not all completely harvested. The meat was still intact. Obviously not intact like you could eat it, but they could tell that they didn't take the fur. They didn't take.
They left some behind.
Yeah, because they simply had to. Because if they ran bison off, they collect all they can. They take all they can back to the camp. They do it again. They go back, get everything they can, but they can't control how many went off of the cliff edge. You know what I mean? They just simply can't control it. So there was some waste in that sense. Like I said, I don't think it was the intention to waste, but that was one of the stories that I heard that didn't make the show just simply because of how things, they just only have so much time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was, in research, something that I found pretty interesting.
Yeah, the other thing that I found really interesting was the disease aspect of it. The vet.
Malignant catarrhal fever.
I'm trying to remember the vet's name. Veterinarian.
It was not malignant catarrhal fever. That was not the vet's name.
No.
Dr. Gerald Parsons.
Yes.
Wow.
Dr. Gerald Parsons. Right. He sat down with us, and he's a veterinarian, and he spoke about how malignant catarrhal fever can kill buffalo so fast that it can't even spread to other buffalo, whereas in things like sheep, they can spread it to each other, but it's completely detrimental to bison that it kills them so fast they can't spread it.
Yeah, so it's just a disease. Sheep carry it. When a sheep gets it, they might have a fever for a day or two, and then that's all it amounts to. But if it gets into a bison, Ryan's right. It'll kill them so fast that they're probably not even going to spread it to other bison. I mean, it's like that.
That's so weird, because you think for something to be so detrimental to bison as a species, you would think they would spread it amongst themselves, but it wasn't even getting to that point. So that means it was so transferable from sheep to bison, which you normally don't see a lot of intraspecies, quick-moving diseases. It's like, it gets to bison, and then bison move it to other bison. But so it's very unusual.
Now, the biggest point of that was, like I said in the movies, like I said in the stuff that you would read, the Native Americans doing mass kills, running them off of cliffs, and then you also have white people trying to kill them all in order to get rid of them, that were actually getting paid bounties on these animals in order to get rid of them to hurt the Native Americans. But what was really wiping them out was disease. And something he said, which was super interesting, I said, do you think that was the disease and diseases and parasites and stuff that kill bison? Do you think that was the biggest thing that killed them off? He said, it killed the most animals. So out of everything, that was actually the biggest problem, and no one talks about it. And that was kind of the point of that segment in the show, was like, my goal was for you to hear that and be like, what the heck? And then raise awareness on it, because I believe that if you can't identify what a problem is, you can't fix it. Mm-hmm. It's like that in relationships. It's like that in life. If you can't identify what the real problem is, then you can't fix that problem.
Yeah.
And the real problem for bison to this day is still disease and parasites.
Mm-hmm. It's easier to blame someone because you can point the finger at them and say they have to fix it. But if it's a natural disease, then it's harder to. You can't sell that as well.
Right. And then you get to so that was like kind of the moral of the lesson there. But then we had the great-great-grandson of Quanah Parker come on, and we talked about, those methodologies of utilizing every piece of the bison, which is what the Native Americans were super crafty. They were using like stomach linings for carrying water. They were using the bones for tools and for weapons. The fur is what they wore. That's what they made their huts out of. I mean, we got to see
boats.
Yeah. We so that's in a different episode, which is actually episode 2. That is good that they're back to back. I didn't even know that they were back to back, but that's a wonderful thing.
I was saying to AJ at one point in time, it's like so first episode's buffalo, second episode's carp, and in that episode we referenced buffalo. It would be kind of cool eventually to set it up so every episode like has like a throwback to the previous episode.
Like an Easter egg.
Jeez, yeah. God bless. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, that would fall on you. So perfect, producer.
Yeah, first week's fun.
Yeah.
We'll just do a throwback to each episode in every episode so that it works out no matter what.
That would be the Jeffrey response to that. But anyhow, in the invasive carp episode, we learn that Native Americans there would actually make something called a bison bowl. And it's funny because you're saying bull or bowl, and it's with the W. So bull, because bull is a male buffalo. So a bison bowl, and they would take willows, and they would make to describe it, I would say, think of the saucers that you sled on. Those circular.
Yeah.
So the way those circular ones, like in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
When he lubes it up and then he goes through the whole thing, and then the whole bottom's scraped off, and Cousin Eddie's still thinking about using it for something. Like he takes it with him even though it's all fried up. Fried pussycat. So going back to that, so they would make this saucer out of willow, and they would actually wrap it in buffalo hide, and they would put the fur on the outside. And the reason why they would do that is because it would act as a drag system. So they would carry these circular little boats, and they could carry them because they were light, so the women used them, and then they would get in the river and then float down a ways and then get out, and that was how they navigated the river. And
cool.
They could hold a lot of weight. So and they were lightweight, but they could hold a lot of weight. So it's kind of
imagine being going back to back to camp and being like, look at this, look what I just made.
You get laughed at or they're praised.
We're gonna be floating.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, what?
You do wonder what the inventing process is like. Are you they're gonna think this is witchcraft and Jeff's family's gonna have us hung, or are they gonna or is it they're good for you, man,
you did it.
God bless you, what an idea. You get a new status in the tribe.
Yeah, get upgraded to chief or something.
Yeah.
For just in practice or in theory, it doesn't sound very feasible, because I watched a video of 4 people get in a bathtub that was floating in the river.
Listen, man, what you watch at night is your own business.
And that seems a lot more like boat-like and stable.
Are you talking about without a paddle?
No, it was a TikTok. They were trying to manage this, and it was a big, a jacuzzi bathtub. So the 4 of them get in it, and they're floating okay. One guy makes one little move, and the whole thing just...
I'm sure there's got to be some sort of technique
to
these.
So it's funny to think that something that's not really that big can hold a lot of weight and is stable for just jumping in and going down the river.
It's kind of like when you see someone getting a kayak for the first time, and maybe they're a little heavy. They're a little heavy set, and they're doing the shaking.
Or
you're you're not gonna make it.
Or they're carrying a camera.
Oh yeah, when AJ had to get in this little canoe, and that was a crappy canoe.
Which time?
I don't blame him at all. We're getting in canoes, and he's this doesn't seem very stable, and meanwhile he's holding
12 grand in it.
Huge camera, and it's
I wonder why I felt pressure.
Yeah. Right.
But that
Weight of the empire on your shoulders.
Yeah, don't lose it. Yeah, and then everyone would be mad at you.
And then I did lose one, and then came out on top somehow.
Oh yeah, Ryan dumped a camera in the lake.
Yeah, we were fishing. It was on a gimbal, and the gimbal stands upright, and I set it on the seat. I can't even believe I did this, speaking those words out loud. And I turned around, and then I hear Scott go, "Oh!" And I turn around, and I just see the camera go off the side.
Submerged.
And I reached out as quick and as fast as I could. This thing was sinking fast.
Yeah, it's remarkable to think that something fell off into the water and you grabbed it as it was sinking quickly because you were in 30 foot of
I
water.
got it in the tips of my fingers. It
Jeez.
was like I grabbed it like this.
And the funny thing is I was in the other boat. All I hear is Scott go, "Oh!" So I turned just in time to see what looks like Ryan holding the camera going, "Sploosh." I'm like,
He's like,
why would you do that?
Was it recording when it went in?
No, I don't think so because I was.
Figures you can't do anything right.
I know.
That would
No, it wasn't recording because I was trying to do something else. Because
that would have been
I
neat.
don't
is all I'm
remember.
saying.
But then we went to the dollar store and tried to get rice and put it in the rice, and and then our
Like a $6,000 camera.
and then our friend Pete made a vacuum chamber because water
Pete is brilliant.
water boils at a lower temperature when it's in a vacuum. So he was able to make this vacuum
I
chamber.
think he said at 34 degrees or 32 degrees. I think it boils at 32 degrees or something like that. It's very low.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it
He
up.
invented something. That's all. I don't remember.
It's made up, so I think we'd
And
say
that
whatever.
system
Yeah.
will be available on our website. You
Patent
go to
pending.
Nope,
Yeah.
no.
No.
Patent pending.
Yeah, so he stuck it in this vacuum chamber that he made and fixed the camera, and then we got another few years out of it.
That's nuts.
I
And
think
then every time I tried to dunk it after that, everyone told me, "No, don't do that."
and you're like, we know Pete.
Didn't do
Yeah.
that.
No, to think about though, I told Pete the phone call went like this. I'm like, Pete, Ryan dunked the camera and blah blah, and I was just complaining. He called me for whatever reason. He's like, I got an invention, and I want you to go into this thinking that
It's not going to work.
it might ruin it, but it might save it. And I looked up the insurance policy, and we had a 3-year insurance policy on that camera, and it was 3 years and 2 months since the thing. So I was like, all right, Pete, roll the dice. So I take it over to him, and he's got like, he's in his garage, and it's like this contraption with plastic and metal, and it's like a tube, and he's got a lid on it with a hose going into it. And he's explaining to me the science behind water and that it boils at a really low temp in a vacuum, plugs the whole thing in, and it's wah, like going like that. And he's like, what I think will happen is it'll heat up the plastic and it'll heat up everything. But with it being in a vacuum, I think it'll pull the water out and make it all evaporate. And then it'll work 10 times better than the rice. And I think it might save it, or it could completely destroy it. And that son of a gun did it.
It worked.
I will say, Pete is by far the most recyclingist, handiest, MacGyverist. He's making deer blinds out of old
Refrigerator.
industrial coolers, and
I love Pete.
Yeah.
I've heard this theory that if you had like a 60-foot straw, and you put it in like a thing of water, and you were able to say you were superhuman, and you were able to suck the water way up.
I know mom jokes.
No.
Because she could.
At that 60-foot straw at like something like 52 feet, the pressure on it would boil at like 52 feet up because something about the pressure in there makes it start to boil.
Wow.
It's interesting. It's like almost
Jeez.
like the reverse of whatever he made.
I've never heard of that.
It's like. Anyhow, that's quite the tangent, but that is.
No jokes to be had there.
Yeah. Moving right along. The Buffalo episode itself, I think, turned out to be something pretty special, though. I think that the best part was probably the harvesting of it. I would have likened to include more of like the cleaning of it,
Yeah.
but there's just in 21 minutes, there's so much to
Cover.
accomplish. We just didn't have the time for it.
I hope an audience can gain a better understanding of the animal, where its populations used to be, where they got, how bad they got, because we discussed that in the episode too,
Mhm.
and the movements that our country is making to restabilize the population, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so right now, I think it's over 90% of the bison are in farming, and the rest are in like conservation herds, and some are in wild. There are a few states where you can get a wild bison tag, and I talked about in the show that game preserves are interesting because there's people. We'll break this down. So there's people that absolutely hate game preserve hunting. I typically am one of them. We don't really do it ever. However, let me explain. they might be the key to saving the bison and making a future for hunting.
Yeah.
So number one, if you put in for all the tags, and I say this in the show, if you put in for all the tags for bison, you're probably never going to get picked. Whether you're putting it in for Alaska, Montana, any of the states that it might be Wyoming. I don't know exactly which states, but there's not that many states and there's not that many tags, and it's not likely you'll ever get drawn.
There's a lot of people that put in for them.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome if you get drawn and you get to go get one. And I think what you'll find on those hunts is that it'll be difficult to find the animal, but then once you find it, the hunt isn't very difficult. And when you shoot one, all of the other ones aren't scared. They're very curious of what's happening to the one. And that is why so many of them were killed and wiped out, is because you'd shoot one, it'd drop, and then they would all go to it.
It's not like deer where they scatter.
No. So it's like, if you had the intent of killing as many as you wanted, you could shoot one, reload, let them circle back up, shoot another one, roll it. It's like that. So the harvesting part is not, for lack of a better word, sporting. Now, that's not to say finding them wouldn't be really difficult in those places where you can get those tags. Could be a tough hunt, especially Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, but that said, it's not likely you'll ever get drawn. I hope that you do. God bless you if you do, and I'm sure you got drawn twice, and your cousin's brother knows somebody, so you're an idiot for saying that. I'm sure I'm terrible for saying that. Now, game preserves offer an opportunity for those hunts to exist now. Now, there's three really big reasons for that are helpful towards the conservation of the bison. Reason number one is because it gives people the opportunity to go hunt them, which is great. Harvest that meat, get excited about it, so on and so forth. Reason number two, as people get interested in bison hunting and they're willing to pay for these hunts, i.e. they'd be willing to buy licenses, it gains interest and momentum with the Department of Natural Resources, Game and Fish in different states. So if the bison has a ton of value to hunters, that they would hunt it. And when hunters fill out those forms every year on what they'd like to see happen in their state, push for bison, the state knows that they can make money and create a sustainable population off of it. Then they see that because everybody's doing these hunting preserves, then they're going to want to provide that on the public landscape. So hunting preserves are important for showing the interest and creating the value that the Department of Natural Resources will need to bring the bison in. Because at the end of the day, it is about money. That they are not going to hemorrhage themselves completely out, lose tons and tons of money to try and bring bison back to their state where they once roamed. They should be there. So that's not to say that we're just putting them everywhere.
Especially something that's incredibly hard to manage the population of.
Yeah, because they're so finicky with different diseases and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So by seeing the success of the hunting preserves, they're like, oh, okay. Then there's enough value there that it could work out, especially capitalizing on the states that do have wild populations that you can hunt now. And last but not least, they're putting bison on the landscape. Now, I think it was something around 500,000 bison are in the United States right now in the lower 48. And then the percentages, like I said, 90% are in farm-type situations. Although it's funny is because they're never quite farm animals. They're never quite cows. We talked to a few farmers that had them and that sort of thing and got to visit them and see what that looked like. They're like don't go near those.
They're not domesticated.
Yeah.
They live on a farm, but if you get too close to them, especially if they had babies, they'll mess you up.
Yeah.
Whereas like a cow, you have respect for the animal. You know it could hurt you if it wanted, but you feel okay petting her on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not these.
They got that little.
Don't
little
look at them the wrong way.
Poof right here, real cute. You want to pet them? Don't do it.
Don't do it.
So getting bison on the landscape is the other huge value, is because you're getting the numbers up. So in general, we want that number to be as high as possible to make the move. Now, one of the things you'll notice that whether you're looking at the ones in the farms or you're looking at the ones in Yellowstone or in the conservation herds that Native Americans own, whatever that might be, they're all going to look the same. And that is because at some point in time, we got down to roughly 45 bison in the lower 48, which means that is a very small pool. Some might say inbred pool of DNA as far as diversity goes. So with the diversity and I got into this a little bit in the show, but not as much as I would have liked to.
Yeah.
I actually think we had to cut part of it, like the tail end of it where I really got into it just because of time.
Yeah.
And in October and November, we're going to be coming out with extended versions of these episodes too. So check our website for that. So you'll get to see extended versions of this stuff and be able to get more information. But with that, it only got down to 45, and that's not really scientific because it was like people saying like, oh, so-and-so saw 3. These people saw 2 the other day. These people, and they like added that together. Yeah. So, and that's like.
And how many were those of those were repeats by chance?
But regardless, the number was very low.
Very.
Which is why all bison to this day look very, very similar. And that also bodes to, if they're all related in that sense, then all the diseases that really mess up one will mess up the others. They're it's tough for them. They haven't
whatever the weakness is, they're all going to have it.
Yeah, and bison are a keystone species, and what that means is that they were very, very, very impactful to many species in their ecosystem.
I'm gonna look up the definition of keystone. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my rough definition. Is that they're just very, very important to an ecosystem, and them being gone would completely change how it shapes. So, one of the things is when they walk, their impressions on the soil aerate the soil for grasses to grow.
It's interesting. A species on which other species in an ecosystem largely depend, such that it would, if it were removed, the ecosystem would change drastically.
Part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So that's just amazing to hear that we're almost down to none. How many other animals were affected by them nearly being gone?
Right. Well, you think about the Great Plains. So the Great Plains were the lawnmowers of the Great Plains for so long, and then their dung gave so much nutrients to that soil. So they greatly impacted the grasses and that sort of things too. And what's interesting about it is they would only eat grasses. They'll eat around all the herbs and stuff. So it's like they were like the perfect thing God put here to get the grass down, to get the dung nutrients into the soil, give so much nutrients to all the other animals, aerate the soil to make it that way, and because they wouldn't eat the herbs and other seeds and stuff like that, they would get it in their fur and carry it off and move it around. So they're just pollinating, not pollinating, but they're moving all the seeds around.
Yeah.
They're aerating the soil. They're eating all the grasses, only the grasses, to get everything else out. There was just the ultimate thing, and we went and
It's pretty interesting.
They're the landscapers of the animal world.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we almost killed them all. Well, I guess we didn't. The sheep did.
we helped.
Interesting. So him talking about keystone. If you don't know, the keystone, when you're looking at an arch, like an old door, how they'd make them out of bricks, and then they would bring them up and they'd make an arch.
Imagine like a castle doorway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one at the very top, at the very center of the circle part, was called the keystone. And then if you were to take that out, that's the thing holding the rest of it up. So then it would collapse.
Oh,
So that
connects it.
Yeah.
I like that.
We might have a keystone in our door, in our Hobbit hut.
We do.
I want to know which one is the keystone in our hut.
Don't touch it.
It's already loose.
I come and Ryan's yanking on it. And I'm like, what are you
The
doing?
chimney's going.
For more of the Greenway Outdoors, head over to thegreenwayoutdoors.com for our weekly video podcast, how-to videos, Greenway gear, and information on our shooting partners.
Here. It all starts here. At Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, we have the widest selection of the quality brands you love to get you outdoors. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our friendly, knowledgeable outfitters will help you find the right products for your next trip. Shop with confidence with our low price guarantee. Plus, club members save even more on great gear with exclusive member pricing. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, voted America's best outdoor retailer.
For every purpose, for every path, for every soul, for every season, there's a Ram.
Legends aren't born. they're created. Introducing Impulse from Savage, the all-new American-made straight-pull bolt-action rifle. Unmatched innovation, fast reloads, maximized efficiency, repeatable accuracy. Welcome to American Straight Pull. Only from Savage.
The second episode that we did was about it's called Invasive Carp, but it's about Asian carp, which is silver carp and big head carp in the Missouri River. We were in Yankton, South Dakota.
Oh yeah.
As well as Arkansas.
Awesome city or town, whatever it is.
Ironically,
it was awesome there.
We golfed at a golf course named Tatanka. Also, Bison again. As a throwback, we did go there, and Ryan's family
that I worked on the construction crew for years and years beforehand.
Wow, it's been planned for that long.
Yeah,
that throwback. Wow.
Yeah, you guys liked it though. It was a good course.
It was the best course I've ever played.
Great course.
I played a lot of really great courses, including some that the PGA played on, and that was the best course I've ever played.
Tatanka is a good course.
Concerned about the business model because we were the only ones there, but
still
haunts me.
I know. I want to know what's going on. What's the racket? There's nobody there. I get that it's connected to the casino, and that's feeling. We're in the middle of nowhere. This is a PGA course, and no one's here.
A lot of people just coming to the pro shop and then leaving. What is this?
That didn't happen. You should check it out.
They did say they get like 200 or 300 on the weekend.
Yeah,
I could see that.
You weren't there, so
I asked.
I'm
That's
just
what they
saying,
said.
like that's usually the big time for golf courses.
And then I was 14, turning 15, working on a construction crew out there.
Can't even believe you remember it 3 years ago.
And well, I guess that's a decade now.
Jeez.
Or no, I was 15, turning 16, because I was supposed to get my license, but I was living out of state, so I couldn't go do my test. And so we make
driving, I'm sure.
we make full circle. Oh yeah, definitely.
Did you have a limp then?
A limp?
Yeah.
Oh, because I was on a construction crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
Or the-
I was 15, smoking cigarettes.
They were candy cigarettes, so you like fake lit them.
Yeah.
Were you doing construction? Were you the one guy doing the work, or were you one of the 10 people standing around watching the one guy?
I would
do the
always
work?
lean on the shovel.
Nice, that's what they're for.
No, I actually kind of got lucky. I got like upgraded at some point to the one who could use all the machinery.
Oh, nice.
And then I made the mistake one night of leaving one of the loaders on all night long.
Oh no! And then you lose it. Now you can't use it anymore.
I still got to do it. Anyhow, where I was going with it was it sucked because I made friends with people there. We go to the pro shop, and I'm asking about some of the people I was interested in.
Everybody's dead. They're all dead. And like some of them are like 30.
Oh.
He's like,
Yeah.
dead,
It was-
dead, right down the list.
What about old Jim? What about old Pete? What about old Tom?
What about young Pete?
all dead. I was like, what about this guy? Oh, yeah, he died in an accident a few years ago.
Oh, man.
Okay, what about this guy?
You just want golf.
Yeah, he died. Okay, what about this person?
But then,
Well, he almost died, but...
but then I bring up one conspiracy theory about the racket that is that place.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that there's a
killed.
golf course, nobody there, and I'm the bad guy.
Turns out everyone who worked on that course, it's like Final Destination, and there's only 3 left, and it went by age.
He's on the list.
We got insurance. We're good.
Yeah. We could do without.
Anyway, invasive carp.
Yeah, so invasive carp. So we went to Yankton, South Dakota, on the border of Nebraska. And we actually stayed in Nebraska, but then Crofton, and then went to Yankton, South Dakota. Cool town. I like the town. We went with Aaron Reeby, who is he owns Reeby Outdoors, so he's a guide for Asian carp on the river.
And paddlefish too, right?
Yeah, paddlefish. I think he even does some hunting and things like that too.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, super cool guy. He's just a good friend now.
Yeah.
He's so nice that we've gone to see him twice, and the first time we said his name wrong the whole time, and he didn't correct us.
Yeah.
Hey, man, just so you know.
He's the nicest guy.
We aired a commercial that we made where I said it wrong, and then he was like, "Hey," he told me after. He's like, "No big deal, but that's not my name."
Still friends.
Yeah. No, he flew all the way up from South Dakota to come to our premiere party and Wild Game Dinner.
And won a big prize.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
That was pretty
Good,
cool.
Good for him.
He's awesome.
He
And
was-
he's also a professor,
Yeah, he is.
so he's smart.
That's true.
He's a smart dude.
He is very smart.
He's smart.
No, he's like one of those people that work really, really hard and are successful, and you're just pumped to know them because they stayed cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he was just so knowledgeable on the river. So we went out bow fishing, and we got to take our Trekker Grizzly out. That thing is unbelievable. That thing is a bow fishing workhorse. And it was just so cool floating down the river. What blew my mind was, number one, how many there were. So the water was way down. So the first time that we did this years ago, the water was the highest it had been ever, and it was chocolate milk, and you couldn't see anything. And we had to drive around like banshees to get the fish to jump out of the water and shoot them out of the water because you couldn't see them in the water. You couldn't see 1 inch in the water.
Only shoot them above the water. You get maybe a full second on some fish, but you just have to be ready the entire time.
So it was kind of funny, too, is like we went to the same area we went to a few years ago, and Ryan's like, is that where we were up in there? He goes, yeah. Dry land.
Except you were up there.
yeah, exactly.
It was dry land. It was so low, which played to our advantage because it made the water cleaner than it's ever been. So we went from the highest chocolate milk to the lowest clear water the second time, which made for great television because if you watch the episode, I mean, you see the fish plain as day.
Yeah. Even the cameras, it's tough for the cameras to do it justice, but like in person, it was crystal clear.
Yeah.
There's the fish.
Yeah.
Shoot 'em.
There it is. Get them.
What was is sort of a bummer too is like people are watching the History Channel on different cable distributors, and some are in HD, some aren't, and that sort of thing. It's like, man, when you're seeing it in 4K on our computer, on our 5K Retina screens, it's like, oh my gosh, like oh my gosh. So I look forward to releasing the extended versions in 4K so people can see the extended versions in 4K there after it airs on History Channel as well, because I think that's just going to add that. We work so hard to make the picture perfect. It's just by the time it gets all watered down, it's like,
yeah. Well, and
should have been there.
And that's what we're showing is 20 minutes. So much happens on each trip, and it's almost impossible to get all the good stuff down into 20 minutes. So the extended ones have so much more going on.
Better. I
so
love
much better.
It's funny because we start out with the long version in the editing process.
Yeah.
And then we have to cut it down at 20. And then the whole time, Ryan and I are doing it, and he's like, I don't like this. No, I don't like this.
I hate
And then
this.
like we get to a part where like we still have a minute and a half left, and we're on the last segment. We got to get rid of a minute and a half. And it's like, well, I guess we could get rid of that conversation, but it's important.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh.
It sucks. I hate it more than anything.
He says it the whole time as if I like it. I get it, man. I don't like it either.
I hate
Fine.
this. I hate
You win. We'll pull out this cool thing.
Yeah, like there's a scene, and it's funny as History Channel used it in their promo of Aaron stomping to show this. I am actually a little bummed you took that out. I think that was a piss poor move, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. On your part. You did that to us.
But we had to take out this part where there's like Aaron stomps, and then you see the fish go nuts up ahead. And it's like you stomp in the boat, the vibration hits the water, the fish way up react, and then you know where to steer the boat because you just saw him do that. And it didn't make the cut, but it'll be in the extended version. But that was something that was interesting about floating down the river, seeing the fish, and then shooting at them. And you're doing like some calculations just like you have to with bow fishing. You have to aim really low, and I think we did a great job of articulating that to the audience as well. As like, here's where you aim to actually hit. But again, it's like you're doing a math problem every time you come up on the fish. And the reason why we were bow fishing, if you're like completely in the dark on all this stuff, is Asian carp are filter feeders, meaning they eat zooplankton and microorganisms, and they do it through filter feeding. So you can try and put as much plankton as you want on a hook, but it ain't going to work. So you have to, because they're filter feeders, you have to shoot them with a bow, and that's how you do it. And the bows have arrows connected to them. You pull back, shoot them, and then you reel them in like a fish after the arrow sticks in the side of them. And boy, is it it's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. But then with the refraction in the water, you really got to do a lot of calculating.
It's very interesting because, you know, with most people when they use a bow, they're used to deer hunting, especially out of a tree. You're sitting in a tree. You can go to your tree, get ready, and then practice shots. If a deer comes there, I need to aim like this. If a deer comes there, I need to aim like this. With bow fishing, every single shot's different.
There he goes.
No single one's the same. You have a split second to make your shot, and it's aiming, but it isn't.
It's
you
all
just have to get the
instinct.
instinct for it, and then once you have it, then you're good. But it's very
it's all
difficult
instinct.
It says very mental because it's so instinctual. Because when we did the snakehead episode in
Say, this
Maryland,
guy's a freak at it.
I couldn't hit anything. You hit everything, thank God. But then we went and did the the invasive carp, and I was lights out, the best shooter I've ever.
You did great, but I did.
Yeah,
your shooting was insane.
I shot a gar this big around.
That was crazy.
15 yards this big around.
That was crazy.
It makes me wonder, like, if we go out again, are we now both good, or do you lose it for one day and then you get it back, and
I think you golf. Some days you're the greatest golfer
memory.
ever. Yeah, some days you're the greatest golfer ever, and then other days you're just crap.
Yeah, if you can maintain like consistently doing it, which is impossible in Michigan because of ice. Then you're good. And
as long as you don't miss the first 5 shots, because once that happens, now you're in your head. Now you're overthinking.
What am I doing?
Now you're going to miss every single one.
It's got to be the bow.
Well, if you go into it just thinking don't think of, getting in your head's not a real thing with that. Like, you just have to pull back and do it. Because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Easy, Gretzky.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that, we'll.
But the cool thing about the actual trip itself was hanging out with Aaron. It was very difficult to get permits for that trip because it was jeez. Dude, I can't take the government anymore. When it comes to getting permits and dealing with all that stuff, it's a nightmare. And it's a bunch of rule followers that are so excited to tell you can't film. And it just so happened we were at a national park and didn't know it. I had no idea that.
You call them and you'll, what do I got to do to fish here? Like, well, it's a national park. You got to do this. You got to do this.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm glad I called. I had no idea. He goes, yeah, no one really knows it's a national park. Well, then how is anyone supposed to know? You don't mark it,
It's funny, though. When we went
crazy.
there, the cops we saw knew who we were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were checking to make sure we were following our rules.
Yeah, they came over and they're like, you guys are the Greenway guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't talk to us.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I think Aaron brought this point up. He's talking about, well, we can't film there. You're not supposed to film in the national park. What about everyone in the national parks filming on their phones?
Yeah.
All the time.
Where is the line drawn?
Right.
Commercial, probably.
So if a newspaper goes, you're not allowed to do that?
I don't know.
A local newspaper? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not the South Dakota government. I don't.
No one's going through. I mean, the level.
It's national.
They literally have to be put on our insurance policy for us to film there.
We had to list the United States of America as one of our additionally insureds, which was just ridiculous filling that out.
It's also hilarious because it's us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what?
4 dudes.
It's hard to believe that this is still real life,
I don't know.
But we did the episode. The problem with the invasive carp there is what happened was in the Mississippi and Missouri waterways, I forgot what state it was, but there was a giant farm of these fish.
I think it was Texas?
I thought so too. I was thinking Texas. I didn't want to say it, but it was.
It was definitely somewhere down south because then they tracked them, and it's a bigger and bigger problem as they were coming north.
Right. I believe it was Texas. So there's a big farm for them because I guess, I don't know if you can say Asian people, but people from Asia like to eat them. I don't know where the line is anymore. So people from Asia like to eat these fish, so they had a big farm there. Well, when the floods happened, the water of the Mississippi rise so much it made it to the pond. So the fish got out of said pond and then into the Mississippi, and they were like, hell
Gangbusters.
yeah. They went berserk. They multiplied, ate, and then they messed up everything. And the big problem with them is the invasive carp, they're eating all the zooplankton. So they're filter feeding everything out. Now, the problem with that is all bait fish eat that. So the bait fish are what feed the bigger fish. But in addition to that, the bigger fish, when they're first born, also eat zooplankton.
Yeah.
So it is the fuel source for everything. So now you have these fish eating all of it quickly and growing exponentially, out competing everything. And then they're migrating, and now they're in the Missouri River. And now it's like they're everywhere. And what's interesting, too, is something Aaron said is the water isn't always that clear, right? But when he was coming in with them for years, boatloads of them, people are like, where did you get those? They don't see them. Because those fish are under the water, and you're not catching them on rod and reel, so you're not aware they're there. You know, it's kind of sad. We've been in the Missouri River twice, and the only fish I've ever caught out of there is carp. It'd be fun.
Gar.
That's fair. I shot a gar, but I mean,
I got you.
I've never had a rod or reel hook up with like a walleye or something.
Yeah.
Like there's walleye there. It'd be fun to fish for him.
Paddlefish.
Well, I've
Saw a
I
bunch
did
of
see it. We
paddlefish.
saw a bunch of paddlefish. Aaron had a tag, and it was one of those things. He didn't hit it, and it was like the problem with bow fishing too is like you hurry up and shoot because you don't know what's going to happen, and then if you missed, you got to reel it all the way in, re-knock it, reset, get ready.
No.
Yes.
And while you're reeling, you're seeing everything you could have shot.
Yes, and like we had one come up to us and kind of come right next to us, and it
was like a dolphin.
He laid on his side, big fish too. It was over 4 foot long, easy. And for there, that's a big one. I mean, it was probably 5
pretty
foot,
cool.
huge, and it was jet black, which would have been cool.
Oh.
Anyhow, he missed it, and and he had a tag, so that would have been really cool on the show if he was able to get it. Of course, he got one the next weekend. I blame him for that. So when we weren't filming, but yeah, we've never really caught any other fish there. It'd be cool to just go there to fish.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff there.
Cool place to just hang out.
I want to note,
Get away.
Yeah.
you're all calling him Aaron.
Yeah.
With it says Steve or something.
What happened to Chummy?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah, he does go by
his
Chummy.
nickname's Chummy, but those are just his friends.
Went
not-
back and forth. I
you
think.
can still
We
call
need
him
to
Chummy.
address him by his professional name on here so people reach out.
You can call him Chummy because you're just his friend, but we're his best friends, so we have to call him Aaron.
Yeah.
When we went there, we spent the whole time with him, and he introduced himself as Chummy. We emailed him with Chummy.
He's grown since then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Jeff.
need, you need to be respectful.
I would get like,
I said, watch your
well,
mouth.
now he's a professor, so now he goes by Aaron, but he was a professor when we were there last
Actually,
time.
Mr. Reed.
Okay, fine, call him Chummy.
That's Dr. Chummy to you.
Date him then.
It's like a nickname for him.
Date him.
Date him.
Well, then don't talk about boats.
His wife would be super upset. And he's got 3 kids now.
Nice.
Yep.
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Savage Arms, Nosler Ammunition, Bosch Shot Shells, Wilderness Athlete, fuel for the rugged, Tracker Boats, fish the finest, Eagle Fishing, designed for the savvy angler, Rufus Teague barbecues, snacks, and spices, Rectech Grills, it's more than a grill, it's a way of life, Sea-Doo, make your own waves, LEM Products, motivating people to hunt, process, and prepare their own food, Quiet Cat, the leader in electronic bikes for hunting, fishing, camping, and exploring. The tip of the spear isn't a spear at all. Nosler Trophy Grade Ammo leaves no doubt. Consistency. That's what you aim for with every practice shot. So when you're out in the field, you get that same consistency every shot. With Carlson's choke tubes, consistency is what you'll get. Our choke tubes are long-lasting, high quality, and made right here in the USA. Carlson's choke tubes, pattern tested, hunter approved. Find out more at choketube.com.
Are you anxious to get going? Knowing that the clock is ticking and time truly is the most precious commodity in the world? Then you, my friend, are in good company.
But anyhow, that was kind of the whole premise of the episode, though, was to highlight the problem, which is substantial. These fish are everywhere. We saw
You can't go there and not get one. If you're going to go
as long
boat
as
fishing
you're
for them,
as long as you're using your boat properly, because if you're driving your boat normal, you won't. They'll scatter. If you're using a boat motor, but we were using the electric motor only, going super slow, creeping and hunting them. But
Yeah.
as soon as we even got close, they would flip and scatter. So you're always it was like a game to see how close you could get without making them scatter.
Yeah.
Because you want to get as close as you can to shoot them, but you don't want to get too close because they'll scatter.
as long as you stay quiet and aren't obnoxiously loud with your boat or anything, or even your steps in the boat, you'll get fish.
Yeah.
You'll get fish for sure.
Yeah, so I would recommend just going with him. So if you want to fly to Yankton, go to Yankton, South Dakota, and then ask for Chummy.
Go to,
and then
go
go
to
with
Mead Historical Museum.
Yeah, go with Aaron Reeby. Yeah, go to the Mead Historicals. And then go to what's the main people? Lewis and Clark Visitor Center, which was super cool.
And Tatanka Golf Course.
Yeah. Cool areas. Check them out.
In Crofton.
Yeah, make a vacation out of it. I love that town. It's beautiful.
It was great.
Yeah, I kept saying it reminded me of, what is it? in Joe Dirt, Silvertown.
Silvertown.
Yeah, it reminds me of Silvertown in Joe Dirt, where it's like this town in the middle of
said.
nowhere that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And everybody there was pretty nice, except for those one people.
Oh, yeah.
At the car wash. Did we tell you about that, Jeff?
Oh, my
We're at
God.
that car wash, and there's like a parking lot. And it's like one of those situations where there's like nobody in the parking lot, and you kind of people like go up and down the lanes or whatever in the parking lot. So we were just doing that. And some other people were going the opposite way. And it just made sense. We were on the right.
And there was a building, so you couldn't see. We weren't, like, because we're going perpendicular to each other, you can't see anyone coming from either direction. And we're also towing a huge boat, by the way.
So we're going.
So get out of our way.
We're going.
Just to notice us.
We're going 7 miles an hour, maybe.
Wow.
Like really slow.
Leadfoot.
And they are too. And like we came over, and we did not cut them off. We technically had the right of way anyways because we were on the right. There was like a million reasons why we were not in the wrong. And they were very upset. An old couple, probably in their 60s, gave us the finger immediately.
Double fingers.
Yeah, double finger. And we're like, what are you so?
That's what happens with people. You drive, and I've noticed that the more I drive, it's like when something happens to you, how dare that person do that to you? But when you do it to someone else, you're like, oh, come on, it's not a big deal.
That is true.
Get over it.
Even the most minor thing, you know.
Cut it out.
And then they screamed at
Uncle
us
Joey.
from out in the road as they were.
Good.
They pulled out into the road and started.
You don't own the road, a-hole.
Yeah.
But they said the swear.
Yeah, they did say they swear.
Yep.
Wow.
They were very upset.
Yeah.
And then
We're sitting in the truck just laughing at them. We all got the windows
we're
up and
dying
like,
laughing. Yeah, we were acting like Comanches, just laughing as loud as we could.
My favorite when people do that, if you get the chance to interact with them, just completely shut them down. I understand you're mad. This means nothing to me. This won't impact my day in the slightest.
But protect your
and
jaw.
They lose their mind.
I'm forgetting about you so quick that when I blink, I'm surprised you're there. When
I
I just thought of that.
That's a good one.
I like that. I'm going to use it. But yeah, the premise of the show, I keep circling back here, was to encourage people to eat this fish because they were brought in for food.
That's not the first thing people think of when they think of carp, but carp has meat just like any other fish.
Well, other carp are bottom feeders, so I can kind of see where they're coming from. These are not. These are filter feeders. Now, the meat, to describe it, I would say has a hint of tofu-iness to it as far as like a rubbery, almost like a hint of calamari texture.
Okay.
But
don't think of tofu as like the flavor
or
like,
a bad thing.
And it's not quite as like spongy as like tofu. Like
it's that, but if it was a fish.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still got some fishiness to it.
And like flakiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had a chart and you were like editing a photo and how much did you want to push up the saturation? If you were instead of saturation, you were at rubberness of calamari.
Just don't.
You
just
would
say
go
calamariness. Don't say rubberiness.
You would go down to 30%.
Oh, okay.
Of the
calamariness.
Yeah. And then the next slide would be like fishiness as far as like fish flavor being over the top, like gamey, fishy. You'd put them at like a 10 out of 100. You'd lower it all the way down.
100 is like disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of fish. Depends on what you cook it in, how you prepare it beforehand, whether you clean it well.
I stand by the fact
that
that's any meat
Yeah.
ever.
It's true.
People said
Other than
Dad
muskrat.
wasn't going to be good, and that was delicious.
I won't say that about muskrat though.
That was so bad.
That was disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the key to cleaning them though, and I don't know if this got cut or not. I don't remember.
Keep them out of the slime?
Yeah.
No, that's still in there.
Yeah, so
actually it might have got cut. I don't know. It sucks.
You played.
I hate it. I hate it.
There'll be an
hate it.
extended version. There'll be an
That
extended
made
version.
it, but the chummy stomp didn't make it in there.
At some point, someone talked about the slime.
I had a rental Jeep a couple months ago, while my new Ram was coming in, and it's still connected to my email, and I get notifications every day when they charge that thing.
Really?
I don't know how to make it stop.
It's nice to know they're taking care of it.
My my phone's just buzzing and buzzing. I'm like, I don't care. But anyhow, yeah, the meat, you have to, when filleting them, keep them out of the slime. So when you cut them in half, you take obviously you've got skin side down, cut the fillet off the skin, put it in nice cold water, get rid of the skin, and do it on the other one. Same thing. Do all the fish with never letting the meat touch the table that the slime was on ever. Mm-hmm. Keep putting them in cold ice water. Then when you're done with that, clean that table thoroughly. then bring the meat back out without any skin on it, debone it, and then you're good, and then you'll love it. But man, if you get that slime on there, that's something. It makes a pike look nice. It's not.
Pike's pretty similar. It's got that slime.
Yeah,
But if you
but
clean
I
it
don't think it
nice
ruins
and-
meat though. I don't think it ruins meat
Doesn't
like
do
this.
anything good for it.
Yeah,
I'm sure it could be better if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
then do it. I'm
Nice.
just kidding.
I love it.
Like I'm upset. But those were the 2 episodes that were for week 1 of the Greenway Outdoors. I hope you enjoy them. If to be honest, I told you it's Thursday right now. I'm scared to death because our hope is that the audience really loves this. Our hope is that you enjoyed the show and you went out of your way to tell everyone you can to tune in, and you're setting your DVRs for next week and you can't wait to see what the next adventures are, because the truth is we're trying to get absolute real conservation messaging out. You hear us able to spend an hour and 20 minutes on this podcast talking about just 2 episodes and the depth behind them. That's why we're here. We started this show 7.5 years ago with the goal to make it to the mainstream, to bring new people into the outdoors, new people into hunting and fishing, so we can replace the demographic that's getting out of it and unfortunately dying off, bring in the next generation so that we can continue this conservation work, so that we can have clean water in the future. We can have national parks. We can have state land that you can just go on and use to hunt woodcock and grouse and rabbits and hunt deer and know where your food comes from and have all those opportunities. If we don't change the course that we're on right now as a country, then we won't have it, because 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55.
That's in 10, 15 years. We have to change now.
And if we all don't come in and come together and get behind this type of content to get that messaging out there, it's really tough to do. And every episode, if you watch, we talk about the gear you need. We talk about the conservation. We show you the hunting or fishing trip and how to do it. We cover the moral lesson that we learned, and we teach you how to cook it. And then the goal is that people can take that and then go into the outdoors, experience it for themselves, get hooked, buy those licenses, join the conservation organizations like National Wild Turkey Federation, like Trout Unlimited, like all those. Get people involved in all of that so that we can have a future for conservation, hunting, and fishing. So please, if you like our show, please like, comment, subscribe, everything, of course, on YouTube. But please, please, please tell everyone you know to tune into History Channel, tune into our show so that our ratings are high enough so that we can continue to do this. Our future is in your hands.
Nice.
Nice.
And also, we have our weekly video podcast every week right here on thegreenwayoutdoors.com. You can find it on Carbon TV, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are found. If you're only listening to this podcast, you can actually watch it on YouTube and Carbon TV, and hopefully soon Spotify. I know that's coming along. I don't know where we are on that, but apparently they're doing that now. So
Yeah.
That's something we got to get on too. On top of that, if you're running into something in the field where you're like, crap, what would the Greenway guys do? Look at our how-to video series on our website, because there's a lot of how-tos there that can help you with a lot of your needs when it comes to hunting and fishing. In addition to that, we've got some online videos on our YouTube channel. You can see our past episodes from our history, our old shows, our old episodes, if you're looking to binge some of our old stuff. But obviously that new stuff on history is just a whole new level. So
Whole new level.
yeah, we're hoping maybe don't watch the old stuff. But anyhow, thank you.
Watch the new stuff first.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. Stay green.